This is Shobi Owan. Thanks for tuning in to Love, Success, and Real Shit. So, we are super excited today. This is the first launch of Love, Success, and Real Shit with a guest, and I'm super excited to bring this guest on board. She is a coach.
Yeah.
She is a public speaker. She runs her own podcast that's geared towards women, and really, bringing a lot of value towards them, because she obviously has a lot that she's gone through and became a powerful woman, and now she's doing the same for others. So without further ado, here's Crystal.
Hi guys, how are you, Shobi?
I'm doing great. I am very much excited, and I appreciate you coming on board. And right when I presented it to you, I think you hopped on right away, and you're like, "Yes, I want to be a part of this."
Absolutely.
So that was so. What was the reason? Why did you want to come on board on the first podcast session?
It's quite simple. I trust you. I like you, and we've been talking about this for, I would say, almost a year. It's been February of last year that we started toying around with that, and then the pandemic hit, and we bounced those ideas off. But mainly because it's part of my character. If somebody comes to me and they're like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" My creative nature and just the person in me that always wants to do whatever I can to help somebody, that's my initial reaction. It's like, yes, what can I do to help? It's just part of who I am, and part of that lioness, right, is always doing what we can for others.
Jesus, and that's so true, right? And I think right when we talked over the phone just like last week, and I told you about this, you were already willing to help in any way that you could, right? And then you started talking about these creative ideas that you can come up with. So I was already like, okay, this is going to be awesome. And the crazy thing is, I know you're busy. I'm kind of involved with things. So we schedule all our times. Okay, we're like, okay, we can talk for like 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there. But when we get on the call, we're like, oh, wait, we got more things to talk about.
So much.
And it's naturally just going back and forth.
Yeah.
And you're just talking and I'm listening. And a lot of things I'm learning from you just on the phone with what you're doing with life and your whole family and situation. I'm like, Jesus, man, this is some good stuff. And I would love to do this with her. So I'm excited.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm excited. I'm thrilled, to be honest. I'm energized.
Hey, same. And I feel the energy, I feel it. I feel already good about this. So what, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I mean, there's 1,000 layers to this woman you see here. So, there's the first thing I would say is a female's initial reaction of who she is her identity, right? And so my identity is being a mother and a wife and a friend, and then it's my business. But most importantly, and you and we've already discussed this, is our faith, who we are, what our foundations are, and on top of not being perfect, right, and being real, because that's what this show's about, is being real, is I also have tied my identity into the creator, our creator. And so that's something that I don't shy away from. That's something that I will never, a lot of people nowadays like to take a step back, and they're even ashamed to talk about faith or talk about who they are and what their identity is. But the reality is that behind closed doors, outside of the professional realm, and even sometimes outside of social media, we all go to our foundational source, right? And so that's who I am. But yeah, I'm a mom. I've got 5 children. My oldest just got married. So
congrats.
It's a big fat horse pill to swallow.
You get over it. You got 4 more kids to worry about.
But I'm so happy for her. She's doing everything right. And she's definitely not taking a page out of my book and the mistakes that I made when it came to those love mistakes.
Okay. I want to hear more about this. There we go.
Yeah. So I'm really proud of her. And I'm not proud of everything I did raising my girls and becoming that lioness and then raising lionesses. I made a lot of hard mistakes that I learned from, but that I don't apologize for. And I think that's something that a lot of people look at themselves and they want to apologize. And I do make apologies for certain things that I might say or, that I do out of when I'm not in self-control. But ultimately, that is one of the things that I stand convicted on, is how I raised my girls, especially during this period of time. You know what I mean? Where there's digital media, where, the connecting to people, looking them in the eye and just being empowered by being able to connect and have a full conversation with somebody, which is why I love podcasting, because we get to hear people and we get to go back to the old days where all you did was listen to people's voices on the phone and you didn't have to judge them by what they looked at, but yet you created that relationship based on the sound of their voice or the inflection in their tone. I mean, I can remember growing up and, you'd get that call from somebody. We're talking about love today, right? That's where we're going.
It's okay. Definitely, yeah.
But sometimes that voice, right? Like you connect, there's those impressions that you can only convey by listening to people and the way they talk and the way they enunciate and the things that they say and what comes out of their mouth. And so for me, this is phenomenal. But backtracking to my daughters and my identity as a mom is like, hey man, I did the best I could. Now you figure it out. I'm not babying you no more.
Oh, absolutely. And I definitely appreciate those opinions that you do have and where you come from. So, before we dive into some of the mistakes that you're referring to over and over again, because I definitely want to know what that is. And we definitely want to have our female and male listeners learn from that, right?
Correct.
But before we get into that, I just want to say, this podcast in general, and then speaking to you, it's like, I'm like almost dreaming right now, because I'm like, wow, I'm doing my first podcast and then I'm doing it with someone that has so much insight in life, and I'm getting so much out of this. I'm like trying to learn, but I'm like, I'm trying to podcast at the same time. But this Crystal, right? Was this Crystal this way throughout her life? Give me a little background. How did she become that way? Was it parents? Was it society? Was it friends? How did you become who you are?
So part of the book that I wrote, right, that we are on hold publishing. Thank you, coronavirus.
Oh my God, it sucks.
It's terrible. But it was supposed to be launched in April of last year, but actually worked out in my favor because we were able to go back to the drawing board and add some things and work on some marketing and some other things. But part of the title of my book is Becoming a Lioness, right? And on my handles, it's Crystal Lioness. Now, my identity is one that I struggled with. And a lot of people will grow up in life and not really identify
with anything.
That one struggle of like, who am I? But yet it is such a deep rooted question that men and women have. Like, it is the first question that we usually ask is why? Why are the stars there? Why do I have 10 fingers? Why am I even here?
Yeah, absolutely. What's the purpose?
What's the purpose? And a lot of the times, the first thing that we do is we look at our parents. Are your parents together? Were they loving? And then you base your identity off of that relationship. Sadly enough, especially in today's culture, families are being torn apart. We're being attacked. Culture is telling you, forget old school ways. That didn't work. Feed yourself, feed your selfish ways. This person treated you that way. I'm not going to endure the test of time. Love is not what love used to be. We see so many people today end up together because in that moment, they satisfied a cry inside or an insatiable desire, only to find out later on you don't even like the person because you don't even like yourself, really, right?
Instant gratification.
And so how did I become who I am? It's becoming, right? Becoming is the journey. I'm not there yet. I'm never going to fully be there because if I am, then what's the point of being here on earth? But when we look back, for me, my struggle was being raised by a father, not a mother, in Houston, Texas. And my first language was Spanish. And imagine girls and boys that are raised with just a mom and the dad's out of the home. But you have the nurturing of your mom and you have all those things going for you. But yet me, I didn't have a mom. And that's not to say she passed away. My parents separated when I was 3 years old. And it's not that there's a lot of juicy stuff, and there's always a story behind the story, right? What you see on the front is never the real stuff in the background that causes that. But in the long run, it was my dad that raised me the majority of my childhood. So he remarried the most amazing, phenomenal,
Wow.
heaven-sent woman to our lives. There's not one soul on this earth that has anything that they can say about her, because she was gifted to us by God. I believe that her purpose was to come in and be our mom.
You usually hear the opposite. So I was waiting for that, and I'm like, okay, yeah.
Where's this going?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So my dad, one of the things that has built the character that I have, which I feel like is not an easy one. It's not a soft one. I'm not a pushover. I've never been a pushover, but it's because I attribute that to the alpha male that my dad was. And sometimes parents, we make excuses for our kids, and we're like, oh, but my little girl doesn't have a mom, or oh, this. My dad never made me feel like a victim. He never, ever talked bad about my mom in front of me. And there was times when I would come home from visiting her and I'm like frustrated, couldn't get along, or I was stubborn, whatever the case. And he would always tell me, regardless of their relationship, you respect your mom.
Do you think your dad was that way? Is that just his personality? Or do you think he also wanted to really be able to teach you a few lessons? Like, was there another avenue that he was trying to take purposely?
So I think that my dad is an extremely intuitive person, and he's highly intelligent, but extremely emotional as well. Triggered. He's a Latino, he Mexican, right? And so when we have to face real life based on culture, the only thing we know is what we were taught. Unless you start to seek enlightenment outside of that, that's where you start to go back and say, let me break the way things are. I believe that my dad just had such a strong foundation in family and in faith. Because he was, a Catholic. He made his mistakes. He attributed to that separation. We're not making him out to be a hero here, okay? We all fail.
Yep.
He just did the best he could. And whether it's me subconsciously tuning out like the bad stuff and choosing to remember the good, I can tell you right now, my dad made it a non-negotiable to come home with low grades, a non-negotiable to talk back, a non-negotiable to do these things. And so that was it. There was no negotiating. Nowadays, even my children are like, but. And I'm like, like,
right there,
tap those brakes, because you're the child and I'm the parent for a reason. And my dad taught me so much of the foundations. Being a single father in the 80s from Mexico, like with a daughter who looks like a little gringuita, right? Like a white girl, and he's Mexican. Like, imagine all those things.
Was your mom Hispanic too?
No, my mom is actually American.
Okay.
So, but don't let that trick you, because those Latinos, like us, some Mexicans and other Latin cultures, we come, with blonde hair, lighter skin, etc. All shapes, sizes, colors, and forms, everything.
Houston has
all of it, right? So for me, it was a challenge, but I didn't realize, like, I never, as a kid, looked at the people around me. I was like, oh man, I'm missing something.
Mm-hmm.
It just went to school. It just was what it was. I came home, and my dad never victimized me.
And how old were you when he remarried?
13.
Okay. And once again, when did your parents separate?
When I was 3.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so 10 years later.
So 10 years, my dad raised me. And I have another brother. I have a brother, and he moved in with us as well, which we can talk about that, because that in and of itself is a hero story too.
Nice.
And I give my mom props, because she was able to see the need in my brother who needed a father. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of parents today have sons, and moms will hold their kids out of spite. Sometimes, not all of them, but a lot of moms are like, you're not taking my son. And a lot of dads don't want their sons. They don't want the responsibility. But there's dads out there that are like, I want my son.
Mm-hmm.
I can teach him to be a man.
Right.
I want to love my son. Statistically, men that are raised by men do better in life, period.
It's very rare for another way to work around. Yes,
it is.
Yes.
But if you have a father that wants his son, why would you keep him away? Why? And so my mom came in clutch, right? Like the hero.
Yep.
And she was like, you know what? This is better for him to be with his father, because his father's going to spend time with him after school every day, get him to soccer practice, give him stability. I mean, all these things that benefited him. And I'm so proud of my brother today. I mean, he went to school to be an electrical engineer. He had ADHD. He was terrible. We annoyed each other growing up. I mean, I was like terrorizing him, chasing him around the house with butter knives.
Oh,
it was
gosh,
terrible.
Man. Crystal was crazy. Just kidding.
Just a dad. No, I'm kidding.
So you
But
fast
yeah.
forward, and you know, I think you had mentioned you were married.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and what age was you're on your got divorced, and now you're on your second marriage?
No.
No.
Yes and no. That's the juicy part.
Yes and no. Okay.
See, those are chapters in my book.
Gotcha.
I detail a lot of stuff in there, but it's no secret. My journey with love is part of who I am, and it has what I attribute. Number one, my dad and the image that him and my stepmom have cultured and cultivated in our home, where I saw the literally unconditional love of her come in and love us wholly, solely. It's just amazing. Like, she set that example for me.
So you knew how to love yourself.
I did. And it doesn't hurt that she had a couple psychology degrees.
It doesn't hurt at all.
Doesn't hurt. But I learned, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't perfect. I was rebelling. I was acting out. I mean, I grew up in southwest side of Houston, right?
Okay.
So, like,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, so you're out there.
In the 90s,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's pictures of me with big bangs and, you know, baggy pants and stuff like that.
Man, okay.
I went through a
See those.
phase.
You got to throw these on this podcast.
I went through a phase. But ultimately, every woman is designed to be sought after when we're talking about love. Guys are designed to hunt, right? Like, you guys are like, ooh, she's cute. Let me tell her whatever it takes to get her. And then once the hunt is over, it's like, unless you're married and it's a different commitment.
True.
But as a woman, our identity and our purpose is normally, not always, fulfilled by how men react to us and how worthy we are of being conquered. Or can that guy come over and sweep you off your feet and look you in the eye and say, ooh, you're cute, you're pretty, you're beautiful, and, you know, whisper those sweet nothings in your ear. Mm-hmm. Really and truly, when we peel back the layers, that's one of my favorite words. Y'all will hear me say that a lot. When you peel back the layers, a lot of the times is women don't even realize it, but it's like embedded deep down inside of us. We've got these questions. I talk about it all the time. Am I beautiful? Am I worth being loved? And do I have some adventurous journey that my life has for me? What's my purpose? Like, we all have that subconscious question, whether or not we realize it. So at a very young age, in high school, I mean, you know, it was high school. Hormones, boys, girls, guys.
Everything's spiking up at that point.
Everything.
Right.
Yeah. So long story short, I fell in love with my childhood crush. And there's like so much to the story. I mean, so much to the story. So much so that he was on the football team. And he used to brush my hair in front of the guys.
On the sidelines?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And the coaches would rip into him and he did not care. Like, he's like, I don't care. I'm brushing Princess's hair. Like, he was so in love with me.
Was he trying to do this before you committed to a relationship?
No, definitely after.
Okay, so he was keeping it going.
Oh, but he was like on the quest.
So is this 9th grade, 10th grade?
Ninth
Okay,
grade.
and then I'm sure it carried out throughout high school.
So here's the kicker.
Okay.
He conquered me. So here's this funny thing is we kind of had crushes in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. And all the girls loved him. And I was like,
Goo Goo Gaga.
Goo Goo Gaga. Right. Like I would buy him Bubblicious gum on Wednesdays when we had PE, and I'd slip him a gum.
That was your way. That was my way. Okay, candy.
And then we would look at each other and wink, and we'd be chewing our little gum in the 80s, like, I got you, you got me, I got you. Long story short, because it's a really long story, this journey of our love and how it came to pass. In middle school, we separated. We were in school together. We separated, and we found each other back in high school. And I was not interested. I'm like, man, you're my childhood friend. Like, we've got the same last name. Like, he was like a friend to me.
Yeah.
Not for him. He was like, I'm in love.
I've been in love, yeah.
In love. So he started calling me princess. Embarrassing. Like, in front of everybody, he would shout out through the hallways like, princess. And I'm like, why are you calling me that? Like, dude, like, that is not cool. You do not call me princess. Like, you are delusional. But he would not cease. I was even dating another guy, and he was like he didn't care. He was like, when are you going to leave this fool? I'm like, dude, you were going to make him break up with me. Like, you have to stop. But he was relentless. And what happens is, when you show someone subconsciously that they're worth it, day in and day out, you literally break them down.
Gosh, man, I could talk about this all day.
You break them down.
You want what you can't have kind of stories, what it's kind of seemed like to me.
But he worked for it like for 7 months consistently. I was just like, oh my God, you are not my type. Look, I rejected the guy 7 months.
It's kind of like you annoy the person, and the person gets annoyed so much, but then finally when you're like, okay, I'm leaving this person alone, they actually start missing that person,
because you get used to the attention. You're like, where's this guy at? That was like screaming at me. You start to like it, the attention.
That's psychology, right?
Exactly. So it breaks you down. So the other guy broke up with me, and I considered myself.
Wait, what did you do?
I didn't give in sexually.
Okay.
I was teaching abstinence classes at the Bel Air Library.
Sense, right?
I was like your, Catholic, rebellious daughter, but I was teaching abstinence classes, and he was a senior, and he was a junior senior.
So he was getting made fun of.
He had a car.
That he sells a
I
car.
don't know if that's what it was, but he had all the things a freshman wants, right? He was good looking, had a car, all those things. Bought me a ring for my birthday.
Okay.
He was doing his thing. So. He broke up with me because I wouldn't give him,
I'm proud of you for that.
I would not do it. But hang on, as this story gets good, let me tell you. So I'm doing abstinence classes, and I tell him no. He breaks up with me. And guess who's there, ready to take over and like slide in with the, the punchlines and the everything. Like, okay, so you're single now. So I gave in. Long story short, after 2 years of, us in this high school love, this amazing friendship, because that's what we were. It was really, really awesome. We were friends, true friends with benefits, if you will. Yeah, I'm not proud of that. But I got pregnant.
In high school?
While I was teaching abstinence classes.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
What did the students think of that?
Oh, what did they think? It was like, really? Like, we were top of our class. We were super smart. We had stuff going for us. I got pregnant, but that all is a smaller detail. 11th grade? It's right before I graduated.
Okay, so 12.
So he ended up passing away in a car accident.
Oh my gosh.
30 days before
graduation,
before we got married, because we were set to get married.
Oh gosh. This is such a sidetrack, and you completely threw me a curveball, because I was expecting another guy that's just kind of doing his thing and then dips. So I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, that's
why when we talked and I said, pain, love, loss, you don't become a lioness because life, you push a button and it happens like an app. That substance comes with living life. It comes with pain. It comes from overcoming. It comes from making life happen and getting up and finding the ways to become victorious. It comes from making mistakes, but it comes from learning and being willing to learn and not become that victim. We live in a society today where everything is, I don't feel safe. Well, if you feel safe, you're never pushed to become your highest creative self. Like, oppression is sometimes opportunity.
Yeah.
Because it forces us to dig deep and pull that person that we were created to be out. But if you're constantly pacifying and I don't want to hurt your feelings and I don't want to do this, then you are tranquilizing people and yourself and society and homes and marriages and our children. And what are we doing? We're tranquilizing. Oh, I don't want to hurt your feelings. You're making me feel bad.
That's oh my God.
Like,
I'm still kind of, yeah.
So that's what life is.
And
it's pain.
So how many
And
months
love.
in were you in? Oh, that's, yeah. How many months were you in at that point? Like, for your pregnancy?
Oh no, I'd already had my child.
Oh,
We
you
already
already
had a
did.
child. We're getting past the details. Like,
How
these are
old
the
was your
major.
child?
So she was 10 months,
Oh, man.
but she's now 22 and married.
Okay, so that's the one we're talking about.
Yes, she's got a whole
Wow.
story, my baby girl.
Oh my God.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
And how, you as a senior, almost about to graduate, still kind of young, still haven't really experienced life yet. I mean, it was probably insanely terrible for you.
You know what?
How'd you hear about the news?
Oh, this is in the book. These are like juicy details that are in my book. Like, oh my gosh. I'm not going to give it all away. But basically, God, I'm trying to think of what I can spoil and what I don't want to give, but let's just go for it for the listeners.
Yeah,
I'm just going to go ahead and give some of those details.
appreciate
We're in
that.
there. Him and I was already working in corporate America. I was, working. I was so fortunate that one of my friends had told me about an opportunity to work in the Galleria. And so I was working full-time throughout the summer because I started in the summer. And it was Labor Day weekend, and he was not feeling good. He had bronchitis, whatever. But him and I frequented taking our daughter to the zoo because it was free. And so back in the day, the zoo was actually free.
Fun, yeah.
And, don't tell anybody, but we would skip school and go to the zoo.
Oh, man, okay.
Back in the day.
You did it for your daughter.
It was fun. And then
Yeah.
in the Galleria, there used to be a pond and ducks and everything. But now there's buildings, and that was also really neat because you could feed the ducks. But, this is a long time ago. I'm dating myself.
All right.
But Alyssa, my daughter, she was 10 months when all this happened, and he was babysitting her. His mom would babysit her. Mm-hmm. And long story short, I went over for that weekend
To his mom's place.
to his mom's a Friday after work. I got off early because our bosses were like, "You guys can jet. It's it's
Yeah, it was-
Labor Day weekend.
right,
Go
yeah.
ahead." I cashed a fat check. I got paid fat commissions. I learned how to
Nice.
make money real early on. And I was like, "Bro, we're going to have a great weekend. It's going to be awesome." So we were headed to his house, and he had my daughter. His mom was babysitting her at the time. So my dad picks me up because at the time I'd wrecked my car, so I needed a ride home. My dad picks me up. I say my goodbyes. And I'm like, "Okay, I'll pick you up tomorrow morning." My dad's not working. I'm going to use his big landscaping truck, like an F-250, extra long bed. It was terrible. It was terrible, but it had wheels, and I didn't care. I needed to see my man.
Yep.
So I drove over there, and he wasn't there. And I knocked and knocked and knocked and knocked, and nothing. And I banged on the window, and his mom came out yelling at me. She's like, "Let him be. He's not feeling good." And I'm like, "But that's not like him. Like, he's usually blowing me up. Like, we're in constant communication. What is going on?"
You and his mom were on good terms or something?
We weren't the best of friends. Let's just
Okay.
put it like that. There's a lot of stuff
Yeah,
that goes on in situations like that. We weren't
get
the
it.
best of friends. We are now. We are cordial now.
Right.
Life has a way of doing that, but basically he ended up going out of town and lied to his mom, and they were involved in a drunk driving accident. So I found out by my phone ringing at 4 a.m. at my dad's house, back in the day when we had landlines and they would ring and the whole house would like wake up. It was terrible. And my dad's super strict. So I was like, "Oh my God, why is he calling the house? I'm going to be in trouble. My dad's going to come in and choke me." Nothing. I found out that he had passed away 2 days earlier actually. And it was pretty devastating. It was actually the worst thing I'd ever felt in my life. at that point. And so it forced me. How did I get over that? I was real. I cried. I screamed at God. I cussed him out. I was angry. I didn't hide it. I didn't hold it in. I was really good at showing my emotions. And I think I'm the same person I am today. What you see is what you get. I'm not a person that's going to say, hey, girl, you look good when you don't. Like, I'm not going to say, hey, you're really good at that if you suck. And sometimes it's a little brash the way I do it. But I'm a big and firm believer that when you hold back and inhibit, you're setting yourself back. Marriages even do that. Like, they inhibit themselves or they inhibit their partner. You know, you just got to be real.
Right.
It's the way you deliver it, obviously. I've learned to be nicer with the way I deliver things, but a part of that is just being real. And when you're in tune with your feelings and you can grieve and know it, this is how I'm feeling. I'm angry. It's okay to be angry.
Yeah.
Be mad. Yeah. You mad? You want to kick something? Kick something. You want to cuss at God? You're not going to take him off the throne. Just don't curse his name. That's what I believe. Don't say, curse him. But if you want to say, oh, my effing, day, and why the F did you do this? Or you just want to release that.
Just
vent.
Right.
Be real. Don't inhibit that. You have to be able to be in tune with what you're feeling in order to move on.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are experts at sweeping it under the rug.
100%. And it's really crazy to me, just like the twist and the turns in your life at such an early age, just like how a movie would play out. Because, I question and I think, I'm like, is it better that we know someone close to us is about to pass, or is it all of a sudden? And I'm sure it is all of a sudden. I also had a cousin of mine, and I think it was Labor Day weekend. I could be wrong.
Oh my goodness.
Right. She went with her family, 4 kids, her husband, and they live in Canada. And the husband just wanted to take a picture with the kids on the rocks with the running river. Probably wasn't the best thing to do. I don't know exactly what played out, and I didn't really want to go into details for her to kind of replay that scenario.
It's hard to relive it.
But the husband slipped, and the water took him, and he drowned that day.
That's so devastating.
They went for a vacation.
So sorry.
Yeah, and her 4 kids, and the oldest one, I think she's about 11 or 12, and they have 2 young ones. So it's crazy, and just the details that we're hearing where, the 4 kids, and then my cousin, she's crying her eyes out. The police is there. How is she going to handle the 4 kids? Like, I don't even know what the scenario looked like.
It's devastating.
So, these things really happen. So not only did you touch on a little bit of love, but we did talk about some real shit that happened, right, in people's life. And I'm sure it caused a little bit of the trauma. So, quickly, we have unfortunately, about 5-10 minutes left.
Oh, we're good.
We have been talking for so long, and I know next time we have to continue some of this stuff because I know this is just part 1 of the love story.
Episode part 1.
Part 1, and we need to have more time to talk about this.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to uncover.
There is. So I want to save that, and then we can come back to continue where you left off. So everybody remember who she is, because it's going to happen. But I do want you to finish off really quickly before I can give you a little bit of time to just tell people about yourself and what you do. How you said you had to be really real, right, with that situation. What did you learn as far as life is concerned during that time? I know you went through numerous amounts of feelings, hate, anger. I did too when I lost a really close one recently. But what did you, after all that washed away, now going back there, what is your thoughts like? How did it happen for a reason? Like, how everyone tries to console you in some way. So what did Crystal learn now from that time that it happened?
I learned that when you lose someone in your life and people say it was meant to be, it's bullshit. I think that is a way that we like to cope, and we tell ourselves that because of the pain.
I agree.
And it's a way for us to numb the pain, that it was meant to be, and God knows why he does what he does. After that is when I started questioning who I was, and I started seeking out God, not what I learned in Catholic church. I went to the religious section at Borders bookstore in Meyerland, and I found a Bible, And I started reading it, and they kicked me out. It was like, I don't remember, like 10 o'clock. They're like, lady, you got to go. And I was just devouring it, because back then I had found that there was a subject in the front where you could look up subjects, and then it would point you where in the Bible it talked about that. So for me, this is my story, okay? It led me on a journey of questioning the Creator. It led me in the seeking of my identity. Had that not happened, I'm not sure that I would have reached the identity question as fast as I did. I learned that people will tell you those things to kind of make you feel better, but there's really no words. There's no word you tell someone when they lose a loved one like that. And I wasn't married for 5, 6, 17, 15 years. It wasn't a parent of mine. But I knew what that instant shock was, to lose a dream, to lose a fiance, to lose the dream that I was going to have a family that subconsciously I was trying to create because I didn't have it growing up, right? So there's so much there. But another thing that I learned in my own quest for who I am, and that is just what makes me the person I am today, was that people will blame God for that, when in reality, we're part of a world that has cause and effect, and he gives us choice, free will. Angels don't have free will. There's a spiritual realm. I believe in it.
A lot of religions follow the same way.
Exactly. My Muslim friends, we've had deep conversations about the Quran and the jinn and all that stuff. Like, I'm not oblivious. When I studied. And I'm telling you that the Creator created us in his image, and his plan is for us to all live a long, fulfilled life. But we are also part of a universe that has gravity. I don't care if you believe in it or not. That is a law. If you go and jump off a building, you are going to fall. You can't add that into your creation and be like, I don't believe in it. I'm not going to manifest gravity. It's there. And so unfortunately, when you drink and drive, you set yourself up to cut your life short.
Wow.
So really, that's what I learned.
Oh man, that's I'm definitely gonna rewatch that whole segment. I'm probably pretty much the whole entire thing. But I recently lost someone too, which was my mom. And I went through the same thing as a part of the plan. Everything happens for a reason. And, I just couldn't buy into any of that at the moment, and I still don't. And if anyone asks me how I feel, of course, I got to pick and choose my words depending on who I'm talking to. But if I want to say clearly and bluntly, it's fucked up.
That's right.
That's all I say. I'm like, how do you feel? It's fucked up. It's fucked like that. It's no other way that you're going to try to make me feel better. It might work for a lot of people, and it should, however it could work. But for someone that's working on being aware of a lot of situations, including my own self, it's plain and simple. It's fucked up, and, in lack of better words, that's just what I have to say. So, again,
I'm so sorry, by the way.
Thank you so much.
But you are so courageous to be here, and you're moving forward, and you're not being that victim. You're not at home, not doing anything. And that is a testament, and that is going to bring people power when they listen to you talk about your journey.
Oh, thank you. And I feel whenever I go see her, it's just like, go do your thing.
That's right.
And I feel like you and I have a lot in common, and I can't wait to bring you back again.
Yay.
It was awesome. But I do want to give you a few minutes to go ahead and tell the audience what you do, what your brand is about, and whatever you can do to kind of blossom yourself, go for it.
So I do a lot of things. Apart from being a full-time mom, I own the Ari Source, which is a business development training curriculum course. I do executive coaching. I have clients all the way from VPs and presidents of companies, CEOs, all the way down to the accountants and just personal entrepreneurs. And I do coaching with them, one-on-one coaching, but I also develop their teams. I come in, I'll do training, sales training, ethics, whatever kind of training they need. But then apart from that, I have Becoming a Lioness, which is the title of my book. And that is the women's empowerment movement that I founded, basically because there is that need of women who have these deep-rooted questions of their identity. And it's like, where do you go to get it? Oh, let me look at Kim Kardashian. Let me find who I am.
Wrong examples.
Yeah. It's like, wait. But you were built for so much more. Yeah. Like, you were created with a purpose. And so it is literally my passion to to bring that to light and to help people not just speak to them, but also empower them with resources. How do I empower you? Empowerment comes from, from confidence. So one of the things that we're doing in a couple of weeks is I'm partnering with the UFC gym, and we're doing a self-defense course for women.
Don't mess with Crystal.
I'm kidding. Well, because there's realtors, there's entrepreneur women that I've been in compromising situations, like tough situations that we can't discuss here. But, that is a passion of mine. Is like, women need to know how to defend themselves. You need to know how to knock a gun off of someone's hand if he comes to you, or if you're showing a house and he puts a gun, a knife to your neck. What should you do? How should you act? So that's calling all my business women so that they can come for that. We'll put the details whenever you put this out there. But then in addition to that, I have my own podcast, which you'll be a guest on, and we'll have, back and forth conversation.
Wait.
And it's called Release Your Roar. And really you can see the lioness, the Ari source, and Release Your Roar basically comes back to the lion, because Ari, A-R-I, is lion in Hebrew, in God's original language. And so the Ari source, who's the source? Where's our source? So really and truly, it all comes back full circle, and they're just different branches of the tree of, what I do.
Very
and
creative.
My passion.
Very creative.
Thank you.
I like how you can combine different things and put it all together. Yeah. I try to do that, but I'm like, okay, I'm going overboard.
But that's good. God created us to be creative. That's why we're made in his image, because we have creative power. That's in the book The Secret. Everybody knows that.
Okay. Well,
you got it.
Everybody needs to go check out her book whenever it does come out.
Yes,
hopefully soon.
Yep.
And also, if you want to go ahead and connect with Crystal about anything, about even females that want to release their roar, go ahead and contact her. I think she's going to be a great help, and I can't wait to see you again.
Thank you.
And thank you for everyone else that's been tuning in. Take care. All righty.
Cool. So one of the biggest thing is that I hate being I'm not a cheesy Christian. I'll drop an F-bomb, but that's real to me. Like, we're so afraid to talk about faith.
Who came up with curse words?